Hello everybody, welcome to episode 41 of Show Fever. Today we'll be going over episode 4 of One Piece Live Action Season 2. And its title is Big Trouble in Little Garden. Now, this episode, I love it because it introduces two of my favorite characters in all of One Piece, Dory and Brogy. And, it's crazy because they were only in one major arc, which is the Little Garden arc. But it was still so enjoyable that I fell in love with these characters. But yeah, our story starts with us seeing Robin as she briefly talks with the Straw Hats after the events at the end of the third episode, and she's kind of talking with them. She's like, okay, you can either take this eternal pose and go directly toward where we'll put you going past Baroque Works and not interfering with them, or you can go against us and go to Little Garden and then end up going to Alabasta where you'll eventually run into us. She offers the eternal long pose to Luffy and he crushes it, and then they decide, you know what, we're going to Little Garden. So she's like, your funeral, and she jumps off and leaves. Then eventually they land on Little Garden, where they all go out on their own little separate adventures to go on an adventure. So Zoro and Sanji are grouped together, Nami and Usopp, and Luffy and Vivi. Now, with Sanji and Zoro, they are going on a hunting trip to see who can kill the biggest game. And I love how this parallels with Dory and Brogy's actual story, because eventually we learned that Dory and Brogy have been dueling for 73,000 times in over 100 years, about 100 years, because they were originally debating who had the larger kill when it came to a hunt that they did. Because they were good friends, but they were just having a contest, and they're like, hold up, which one of us got the bigger one? So they kept fighting to figure out who had the bigger one, and eventually they forgot what they were even fighting about. But yeah, so I love how that kind of parallels Dory and Brogy's story. So Sanji and Zoro go out and they're looking for stuff to kill. They end up just kind of exploring around, and eventually they run up on a T-Rex that, I'd say Zoro killed because he's the one who kind of slashed it down the torso, but Sanji also did an impactful kick to it. But yeah, so Luffy and Vivi, they kind of go around, and they eventually run into some, I believe they're brontosaurs, tall, long neck things, and so they go around and they eventually hop on them, and Luffy is talking with Vivi, and she kind of gets a little short with him. She's like, I'm sorry, I just want to get back to my land. And he's like, you will. And just kind of consoling her, showing a little bit more of just relationship development between Luffy, Vivi, and the Straw Hats. Yeah, and then Usopp and Nami, they just kind of trapeze around, going about and all that. And eventually they run into a cave, and they're in this cave, and they see Brogy. Well, I think they go to the cave after. But they run into Brogy. And they are scared for their lives because they believe this is about to be some daggone Polyphemus and Odysseus' crew antics where they're about to get devoured. And so we see as they kind of talk with him, and Brogy introduces himself, introduces that he's the Red Ogre. He's the strongest giant in all of Elbaf. And so he's kind of talking and chatting with them, and they think they're going to die. And so Nami ends up going out for a little bit, and Usopp's kind of regaling Brogy with his stories of Captain Usopp and how he wielded a 5-ton hammer and all that. But, so eventually Nami ends up coming back, and he's like, yo, I didn't say I wanted to eat you for lunch. He said he wanted to have them for lunch, just being cordial and all that. So they end up having lunch with him, and then partaking in his stew. He kind of introduces the conflict what I just talked about between him and Brogy, about how they've been fighting for 100 years, 73,000 matches or something like that, and how they've already just forgotten what they were even fighting for to begin with. And okay, I was not expecting to like the Giants in presentation-wise when it came to live action One Piece. I saw the screenshots and the early teaser stuff beforehand, and I was like, they don't look size proportionate. They did good on the size. I can commend. I was so happy that they got the sizes right, because imagine. Oh my goodness! Holy stutter! Giants are massive in One Piece. They are bigger than boats. People are dwarfed in their hands, and we see this, and it's very fitting size and all of that. Brogy, one thing I liked about both of them was that they got the laughs down. Yeah. I was so good. That was legit the thing that made me love them when I originally watched it. I was like, it's goofy, I laugh, I love it. And that's why Brogy's my favorite, because he goes, yeah. I actually like the yeah of Dory as much. But so eventually we see as Vivi and Luffy do a little more adventuring. They eventually run into Dory, and Dory explains to them how he's the Blue Ogre. He is the strongest warrior of Elbaf, and he just kind of reintroduces the conflict again. Then Eventually, we go back to Zoro and Sanji, and while Zoro's kind of standing around the T-Rex, he gets hit with this little paint pattern thing, and we're like, what is this? And so we see as he kind of starts acting weird. He starts putting pomegranates, just like piles and piles upon pomegranates, and he's just laughing. He can't stop laughing. Sanji thinks he's just being stupid because he hates Mossad. But yeah, so he is obviously hypnotized, inebriated, something like that. So we end up going on, and eventually we see as Nami and Brogy ends up hearing the volcano explode. He's like, "Yo, that's our time to fight." So he's like, "Yeah, do you want to come and watch the fight between me and Dory?" And so they're like, "Yeah, heck, sure, let's go." And they end up going, but while they're going to do this, Nami gets hit with a similar paint splash, but hers is green, and she just gets real lackadaisical, kind of apathetic, but also just kind of just like if she was high on something, but like it was a suppressant, a depressant, and she's just kind of like in a floating state. Yeah, so they eventually end up going to the battle, and we see as Vivi, Nami, Luffy, and Usopp all meet up, and they're like, "Yo," they're talking about who's gonna win, who's all that, and we see Dory and Brogy prepare to fight. They're drinking up some ale, presumably. They get their scald and their why am I reading the word toast out, and then eventually they're prepared to battle. Now, I also was not expecting this battle to be good. I actually wasn't expecting to see them battle at all in the live action. But we did, and it was really good. Like, I really enjoyed the battle. It was nice. It was well done, well choreographed. It looked good. Like, the proportions didn't break down while they were battling. So it was really good. I was really appreciative and really surprised. But yeah, eventually as they keep battling, they noticed that Brogy's, like, mug was smoking. And they're like, what's going on here? Previously, before this, we had seen that Miss Valentine and Mr. Five had landed on Little Garden, and they were searching for Dory, and they weren't searching for Dory, but they were searching for the Straw Hats, so Mr. Zero wouldn't send people after them and kill them. So they end up going through the woods a little bit, and they run into Mr. 3. Now, Mr. 3 is a man who has the power of the wax fruit, so he can essentially just produce wax and mold it into anything he wants. And so they run up on him in his house, and he's kind of making a deal with him. He's like, "Yo, if you help me take out these giants and help with the Straw Hats, then I will consider not killing you and putting in a word for you with Mr. Zero." So I ended up doing this, and the reason why Brogy's mug was smoking was because Mr. Five had tainted it with some of his bodily pieces, and Brogy had consumed a bomb. And we hear it blow up in his stomach because it was in the ale, and he starts to smoke, and he's after staggering around for a little bit, him and Dory end up going back into battle, and Dory stabs him through because Dory didn't know what was going on. He just thought it was still a fair fight, so he ends up killing him. And it's really sad because then everyone figures out, they see the Brokeworks agents, and they're like, "Yo, guys, this is what actually happened. There wasn't anything, it wasn't a fair fight anymore." That's what I was trying to say. But, yeah, so they see this, and Luffy goes chasing after him, and we see as Usopp kind of walks up to Brogy, he's like, "You'll always be the strongest giant to me. I'll always remember you." And we see as Dory goes back to his cave, he's real depressed and all that. He's like, "I might have beat you once, but I'm still going to give you an honorable funeral, and I'm going to hunt down the people that did this to you." Because eventually he figures out, that this wasn't a fair fight, because if it would have been a fair fight, he knows that they would have drawn, and it didn't happen. But, yeah, so we see as Luffy is running after the, Miss Valentine, and, actually Mr. Five, because Miss Valentine finds Usopp and Nami, and ends up capturing them. She, breaks off a ledge and all that. And we see as that progresses along until eventually, Usopp doesn't actually ever get tainted by the little paint thing. But yeah, we see as Luffy is running, and he eventually finds a young girl by the name of Miss Golden Week. She is actually a Baroque Works agent, but he doesn't know that. He runs up on her, and she's just crying like, "I was looking for someone, I got lost." So he's just sitting there with her, trying to console her, and she paints the mark on his face. So he becomes very depressed off of his mark, because our marks can afflict certain emotions that people just can't escape. It's kind of like how Piranha's ghouls work, because they feed off negative emotions, and the only way to beat them is have the most negative emotions. But I don't think they feed off positivity. No, they feed off positivity, because Usopp's able to beat him, and he only has negative emotions or negative thoughts. They feed off positive thoughts, yeah. But yeah, kind of similar concept that. Yeah, so we see as Luffy is now taken, and then we ultimately see a flash in to where we see that Usopp, Nami, Zoro, and Luffy have all been tainted and captured and put in the wax handcuffs at Mr. Three's house. And toward the last, I believe the last couple of scenes of the episode, we see as Dory is kind of doing his thing in the cave, like I previously mentioned, and then Mr. Three pulls up on him. He throws a wax dagger through his hand, and he explains how Dory is like, he explains how Mr. Three explains how he is an artist. He's like, yo, I need you for a piece, so I'm going to turn you into wax because I can turn anything to wax. And that is where the episode ends. So I really enjoyed this episode. Little Garden is, I don't believe it's in my top 10 favorite arcs of One Piece because, I mean, it's early One Piece still. And I don't, One Piece didn't really, grab me until Skypiea, because I love Skypiea so much. But, yeah. So, I really did enjoy this, though, because, I mean, it's a very short arc. It's not very long. It's only going to be 2 episodes in the live action. It wasn't long to begin with in the anime or manga. But it is a very good arc. It makes you love characters with very little screen time. It's a very skillful art when it comes to narrative writing, and I love when an author can make me love a character in such little time, because that just shows masterclass writing. And yeah, I just really enjoyed this episode. I loved how the Giants actually ended up pleasingly surprising me. I wasn't expecting to know. I thought they were going to look kind of clanky and kind of goofy, but no, they actually did look really good because they used actual people. I don't really know how they did that. I'm not a master of cinematography. I don't know a single thing about cinematography to begin with. I just like watching stuff. But yeah, they did really well because, I mean, the Giants are played by actual people, so they look like people. And they're not just CGI, monstrosities. But yeah, that was really good. I liked to see some more interactions between Zoro and Sanji. You like to see Vivi kind of building her relationship with the Straw Hats via Luffy and all that. And I like to see Usopp just yapping it up, because this makes me so mad that Usopp is a bum now after not doing anything since Dressrosa, because, I mean, bro had such potential to be an honorable warrior of the sea, and now he's just a bum. He's a D1 bum. But, yeah, but, this makes me remember all the potential that Usopp had all the way up to Dressrosa, where it fell off because bro learned observation hockey and was like, you know what? I'm done. I'm not even practicing this stuff. But, yeah, a little bit off tangent there, but, that's all I really have to say about Big Trouble in Little Garden, and that's all I really have for episode 41 of Show For You. So thank you very much for watching.